Welcome to Monk's Temple. Tonight, as you settle into the quiet hours, as the world outside softens into shadows and the demands of the day release their grip on your attention, I invite you to something simple. Not a technique. Not a method. Not another thing to do. I invite you to an undoing. A gentle unraveling of all the effort you've carried. A softening of all the places you've been holding too tightly. If you're new to this space, welcome. We gather here each night not to add more knowledge to your mind, but to help you remember what you already know beneath the noise. If you feel called to return, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. Your subscription helps this sanctuary remain open, a soft place for weary minds to land in a hard world. Now, let's begin where all true rest begins, in noticing what's already here, before we try to change anything. I want to tell you a story about my teacher. He was an old man who lived in a small hermitage in the Red Rock Canyons of Utah. He wasn't a Buddhist monk in the traditional sense, he was a former geologist who had traded his rock hammer for silence. I visited him during a time when my mind felt like a shattered windshield, 1,000 fractures, each reflecting a different worry. For days, I sat with him in silence. On the third evening, as the canyon turned violet with dusk, he handed me a stone. It was smooth, cool, fitting perfectly in my palm. "What do you feel?" he asked. "It's heavy," I said. "Feel deeper," he said. I closed my eyes. Beyond the weight, I felt its solidity. Its coolness. The slight imperfections on its surface. "Now," he said, "tell me where the stone ends and your hand begins." I opened my eyes, confused. "They're touching. I can feel the boundary." "Can you?" he asked gently. "Or are you feeling sensation about touching?" The stone's coolness, your hand's warmth, these are experiences appearing in awareness. The boundary you speak of is just another thought. Another idea. Another line drawn in the sand of consciousness. That night, lying on my cot, I held the stone again. And I realized something that would change everything about how I sleep. The stone wasn't outside me. My hand wasn't inside me. Both were appearances in a vast, boundless awareness. And that awareness, that space that knew both stone and hand, that was what I truly was. Not the thinker. Not the feeler. The knowing itself. This is the first gate Buddhism opens for us, the gate of non-separation. The understanding that the mind which tries to sleep and the thoughts which prevent sleep are not two different things. They are waves in the same ocean. And you are not the wave fighting other waves. You are the ocean, capable of holding all waves without being disturbed by any of them. Let's explore this with a metaphor that might feel familiar but which we'll approach in a new way. Imagine you are the sky. Not a small patch of sky, but the entire sky, limitless, boundless, without edges. Throughout the day, weather moves through you. Clouds of thought. Rain of emotion. Thunder of anxiety. Lightning of insight. Sometimes the weather is stormy. Sometimes it's clear. Sometimes it's partly cloudy with a chance of regret. Now, here's what we usually do. We identify with the weather. When storm clouds gather, we think, "I am stormy." When lightning flashes, we think, "I am anxious." When there's a drought of inspiration, we think, "I am empty." But Buddhism points to something radical: the sky doesn't become the weather. The sky holds the weather, allows the weather, but remains fundamentally unchanged by it. Blue sky doesn't disappear when clouds come, it's still there, just temporarily obscured. And when the clouds pass, as all weather does, the sky reveals itself again, unchanged, pristine, vast. Your awareness is that sky. Thoughts and feelings are that weather. And sleep? Sleep isn't the absence of weather. Sleep is the sky resting in its own skyness, regardless of what clouds are passing through. I learned this not from a meditation hall but from an airplane. I was flying home after a difficult year. Below me, a massive storm system churned, dark clouds, visible lightning, turbulence that shook the plane. People around me were anxious. Then we climbed above the cloud layer. Suddenly, we were in brilliant sunlight. The storm was still there, but we were above it. The sky up here was perfectly calm, perfectly clear, perfectly peaceful. The pilot came on the speaker, "We've reached cruising altitude above the weather. It should be smooth from here." That's what we're doing tonight. We're not trying to stop the storm. We're climbing to the altitude of awareness. To that place where we can see thoughts and feelings as weather patterns below us, while we rest in the clear sky of presence. In a temple in Burma, there's a room with walls made entirely of mirrors. When you enter, you see yourself reflected infinitely in every direction. At first, it's disorienting. Then, if you stay still, something happens. You begin to notice that the reflections are just reflections. They have no substance. They come and go depending on where you stand. But the mirror itself, the clear, reflective surface, remains unchanged regardless of what it reflects. Your mind, at its deepest level, is that mirror. Thoughts, emotions, memories, these are reflections. They appear, have their moment, then vanish. The mirror doesn't hold on to them. It doesn't prefer beautiful reflections over ugly ones. It doesn't try to keep certain images and reject others. It simply reflects what's before it with perfect impartiality. We make one crucial mistake. We believe the reflection is us. We see an angry face in the mirror and think, "I am an angry person." We see a tired face and think, "I am tired." But the mirror isn't the reflection. The mirror is the capacity to reflect. Buddhist meditation trains us in mirror-like awareness. Not to stop reflections from appearing, but to stop identifying with them. To recognize, anger is appearing. Sadness is appearing. Peace is appearing. All are equal in the mirror's eye. All are temporary appearances in consciousness. I practiced this with an actual mirror during a period of intense self-criticism. I would stand before it and say all the harsh things I believed about myself. And I watched my face react, the pain in my eyes, the tension around my mouth. Then I started saying, the mirror is reflecting pain right now. The mirror is reflecting tension. I began to separate the mirror from what it reflected. The criticism didn't stop immediately, but its power diminished. Because I was no longer the criticized. I was the awareness that new criticism was happening. As thoughts arise, try this gentle reframe. Instead of, "I am worrying," try, "Worry is appearing in awareness." Instead of, "I can't sleep," try, "The thought, I can't sleep, is passing through." This small shift in language creates a massive shift in experience. It moves you from being the passenger tossed by waves to being the ocean that holds all waves. Here's a paradox that keeps many people awake: the mind tries to use thinking to stop thinking. It's like a river trying to drink itself dry. The more it drinks, the more water it needs. The more it thinks about sleep, the more awake it becomes. Buddhism recognizes this as a fundamental error in approach. You cannot solve the problem of thinking with more thinking, just as you cannot put out a fire with gasoline. The solution lies in changing your relationship to thought, not in eliminating thought. I experienced this during a silent retreat. On the 5th day, my mind was particularly busy, rehashing old conversations, planning what I'd do after the retreat, judging my meditation. Frustrated, I went to the teacher. "My mind won't stop," I complained. He smiled. "Who told you it should?" I was confused. "Well, isn't that the point of meditation? To quiet the mind?" "No," he said gently. "The point is to see that you are not the mind. The mind will do what minds do, think. Just as the stomach will digest and the lungs will breathe. Your job isn't to control it. Your job is to notice you're not it." That night, I lay in my cabin as thoughts raced. Instead of fighting them, I did something new. I imagined myself sitting on the bank of a river, watching thoughts float by like leaves on the current. Some leaves were worries. Some were memories. Some were fantasies. I didn't jump in to retrieve any. I didn't try to dam the river. I just watched. And around 2 a.m., something shifted. The river didn't slow down. But I stopped believing I was in it. I was on the bank. And from the bank, the river's speed didn't matter. I could rest while it flowed. Try being the bank, not the river. Let thoughts flow without following them. They're just leaves passing. You don't need to examine each one. You don't need to sort them. You certainly don't need to jump in after them. Just watch them come, watch them go. The bank never gets wet. The bank never tires. The bank simply is, solid, grounded, at rest. In my childhood home, there was a window seat in my bedroom. I would sit there for hours, especially at night, watching the world outside. Through that glass, I saw rain streak down, snow accumulate, leaves dance in wind, the moon rise. The window separated two worlds, the warm, safe world of my room and the changing, sometimes harsh world outside. Your awareness is that window. On one side is the inner world of pure being, peaceful, spacious, unchanging. On the other side is the outer world of experience, thoughts, sensations, emotions, constantly changing. Most of us spend our lives with our nose pressed against the glass, completely identified with what's outside, forgetting there's a whole room behind us where we could rest. Buddhism teaches us to turn around. To notice the room. To feel the space, the warmth, the safety of awareness itself. From this perspective, the weather outside becomes just that, weather. Interesting to watch, but not who we are. I learned this during a hurricane. My family had boarded up the windows, but one small pane in my room gave a narrow view outside. As the storm raged, I sat on my window seat, watching trees bend, rain fly sideways, debris tumble. But inside, with my back against the wall of the room, I felt safe. The storm was fierce, but it was out there. I was in here. The window separated us. Your mind has the same architecture. Thoughts can rage like hurricanes. Emotions can pour like torrential rain. But there's always the window of awareness separating the storm from the peaceful room of your true nature. You can't stop the storm. But you can turn your attention from the window to the room. You can feel the safety, the stillness, the peace that exists regardless of what's happening outside. When thoughts storm, try this: feel your body against the bed. That's the wall of your room. Feel the breath moving gently. That's the quiet air inside. Notice the space around thoughts. That's the room itself. You're not at the window watching the storm. You're in the room, resting, safe, separate from the weather. Imagine you're a lighthouse keeper on a rocky coast. Your job isn't to calm the sea. Your job isn't to stop the storms. Your job is simply to keep the light burning. Ships come and go. Storms rise and fall. Waves crash against the rocks. But your attention remains on the light. You tend it. You make sure it shines steadily through all conditions. Your awareness is that light. Thoughts and emotions are the sea, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. Your job before sleep isn't to calm the sea. That's impossible. The sea will be what the sea will be. Your job is to keep the light of awareness burning steadily. To tend to it. To return to it again and again. The beautiful secret is this: when the light shines steadily, ships find their way. When awareness remains present, the mind finds its natural state of rest. Not because you forced it to rest, but because in the steady light of presence, agitation eventually settles on its own. I visited a lighthouse in Maine once and spent the night with the keeper, an old man who had tended the light for 40 years. People think I'm here to warn ships about rocks, he told me. But really, I'm here to remind them of the light. The rocks are always there. The storms come and go. But the light, that's constant. That's what they navigate by. He told me that during the worst storms, when waves would crash over the lighthouse itself, he would focus entirely on the light mechanism. Cleaning the lens. Checking the oil. Winding the clockwork. By focusing on tending the light, he didn't have attention left over to fear the storm. That's our practice tonight. Don't focus on calming the storm of your thoughts. Focus on tending the light of your awareness. Each time you notice you've been swept into thinking, gently return to the breath. That's cleaning the lens. Each time you notice tension in the body, gently soften. That's checking the oil. Each time you notice you're trying to control sleep, gently release. That's winding the clockwork back to its natural rhythm. The light doesn't fight the darkness. It simply shines. Awareness doesn't fight thoughts. It simply knows they're there. In that knowing, in that shining, something miraculous happens. The darkness loses its power. Thoughts lose their urgency. And sleep arrives not as an achievement, but as a natural response to a mind that has stopped struggling. Behind the monastery where I first studied, there was a garden. But not the kind you might imagine: neat rows, trimmed edges, controlled growth. This garden was wild. Flowers grew where seeds fell. Vegetables mingled with weeds. Fruit trees dropped their bounty wherever it landed. At first, I thought it was neglect. Then the gardening monk explained, "We don't grow the garden. We watch it grow. We remove what's genuinely harmful. But mostly, we let it be what it wants to be. He pointed to a patch where tomatoes grew through a rose bush. Look, he said. The tomatoes get support from the rose thorns. The roses get nitrogen from the tomatoes. They help each other. If I had organized them, they'd both be weaker. Your mind is that garden. Thoughts grow where conditions support them. Emotions bloom according to their season. Some are beautiful flowers. Some look like weeds. Our usual approach is to try to be the gardener, pulling weeds, planting what we think should grow, forcing order on the wildness. Buddhism suggests a different relationship: be the garden itself. Not the gardener. Let thoughts and feelings grow as they will. Don't label some as weeds to be pulled. Don't cling to others as flowers to be preserved. Just watch the incredible intelligence of life expressing itself through your consciousness. I tried this with my sleep anxiety. Instead of fighting thoughts about not sleeping, I let them grow. I'd lie there and think, okay, let's see how big this anxiety can get. Let's give it all the space it wants. And something funny happened: when I stopped fighting it, it lost its intensity. It was like giving a weed the whole garden. It didn't know what to do with all that space. It actually shrank. Try being the garden, not the gardener. Let thoughts grow. Let feelings bloom. Don't prune. Don't weed. Don't organize. Just watch the wild, beautiful, untamed intelligence of your consciousness expressing itself. In that watching, you might discover that what you thought were weeds are actually just different kinds of flowers. And the garden doesn't need to be orderly to be beautiful. It doesn't need to be controlled to be peaceful. In the center of the small town where I grew up, there was an oak tree that was over 300 years old. It had seen generations come and go. Children played in its shade. Lovers carved initials in its bark. Old men sat beneath it telling stories. Storms broke its branches. Droughts tested its roots. But the tree remained. It didn't try to be anything other than a tree. It didn't try to keep the children from growing up. It didn't try to prevent the storms. It simply stood, deeply rooted, giving shade, being what it was. Your awareness is that tree. Thoughts and experiences are the people who come and go beneath your branches. Some stay a while. Some pass quickly. Some bring laughter. Some bring tears. The tree welcomes them all but doesn't cling to any. It remains rooted in the earth of being, drawing nourishment from the deep soil of presence. Buddhism teaches this kind of rootedness. Not being unaffected by life, but being so deeply grounded in awareness that life's changes don't uproot you. You can feel joy without becoming addicted to it. You can feel sorrow without being destroyed by it. You can have thoughts without believing you are them. I visited that old oak recently. New children played where I once played. New initials were carved beside faded ones from my youth. The tree was the same, yet different. It had grown. It had weathered more storms. It had shed more leaves and grown new ones. But its essence, its oakness, was unchanged. That's how it is with awareness. Experiences change. Thoughts come and go. The body ages. But awareness, the knowing presence that you are, remains essentially unchanged. It's the constant in the changing. The stillness in the movement. The silence in the noise. Feel your roots. Not physical roots, but the roots of awareness that go deep into the ground of being. Feel how you are nourished by simply being present. Feel how you don't need to chase thoughts or fight emotions. You can simply stand in your own presence, like that ancient tree, offering shade to all that comes to rest beneath your branches. And in that standing, in that rootedness, sleep comes like evening birds coming home to roost in your branches, naturally, peacefully, without effort. There's an indigenous tradition in the American Southwest where grandmothers weave blankets with a deliberate mistake in the pattern. They say this is to allow the spirit to enter and exit the weaving. The perfect blanket would trap spirit. The imperfect one allows movement, life, breath. Your mind weaves thoughts into patterns. Stories about who you are. Narratives about your life. Patterns of belief and identity. Buddhism doesn't ask you to stop weaving. It asks you to leave a deliberate gap, a space where awareness can enter and exit freely. A space where you remember you are not the pattern, but the weaver. And even the weaver isn't ultimate. The weaver exists because of the wool, the loom, the light by which they see to weave. I learned to weave from a Navajo elder. As I struggled to make my pattern perfect, she gently took my hands and said, "You're trying to control the wool. But the wool has its own wisdom. Let it show you where it wants to go." She showed me her latest blanket. In one corner, the pattern broke. Instead of straight lines, there was a gentle curve. "That's where the wool spoke," she said. "That's where spirit enters." That night, looking at my own imperfect weaving, I realized, my attempts at perfect mental control were preventing the natural intelligence of awareness from flowing. By trying to make my mind perfect, quiet, peaceful, always calm, I was creating more tension, more struggle. Allow imperfections in your mental weaving. If worry appears in your peace pattern, let it be. If restlessness interrupts your calm design, let it shape the next part of the weave. Leave gaps. Leave spaces. Let awareness move freely through the patterns of thought. Remember, you are not the blanket. You are not even just the weaver. You are the space in which weaving happens. And that space doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be spacious enough to hold whatever patterns arise. Every village needs a well. A source of water that doesn't depend on rain. That comes from deep underground springs. That remains cool even in summer, unfrozen even in winter. That gives generously to all who come with a bucket. Your consciousness has such a well. It's the source of awareness itself. Thoughts may come and go like weather, but this well remains. Emotions may rise and fall like seasons, but this well remains. It's always there, always full, always ready to refresh you. Buddhist meditation is essentially learning to lower your bucket into this well. To draw up the cool, clear water of presence. To drink deeply of silence. To remember that no matter how dry the surface of your life feels, there is always this depth available to you. I remember a drought summer when the creek by our house dried up. The grass turned brown. The earth cracked. But our well, dug by my grandfather, still gave water. Cold, clear, life-giving water. My father would say, the well doesn't worry about drought. It's connected to something deeper than weather. Your awareness is connected to something deeper than thought. Deeper than emotion. Deeper than circumstance. It's connected to the fundamental ground of being. Some call it Buddha nature. Some call it true self. Some call it pure awareness. The name doesn't matter. What matters is knowing it's there. And knowing you can always return to it. When thoughts make the surface of your mind feel dry and cracked, remember the well. Lower your attention deep into your being. Past the thoughts. Past the feelings. Past the stories. Down to the cool, silent water of pure presence. Drink from it. Bathe in it. Let it refresh every cell of your consciousness. From that depth, sleep rises naturally, like water finding its own level. Picture this, a cozy room. A fire crackling in the hearth. An empty chair by the fire. The chair isn't waiting for anyone. It's just empty. Available. Present. The fire warms it. The light illuminates it. But the chair remains what it is, a space for sitting, currently unoccupied. Your awareness is that chair. Thoughts and feelings may come sit in it. Worry may occupy it for a while. Planning may take its turn. Memory may settle in. But the chair doesn't become the occupant. When worry gets up and leaves, the chair is empty again. Ready for the next visitor, or ready for no visitor at all. Buddhism teaches us to value the empty chair. To not be in a hurry to fill it. To appreciate the space itself, not just what occupies it. Because in that emptiness, there's peace. In that availability, there's freedom. I have an actual chair by my fireplace. For years, I'd always be sitting in it, reading, thinking, working. Then one winter evening, I left it empty. I sat on the floor instead. And I noticed something. The empty chair was beautiful. It looked peaceful. It looked restful. It didn't need me in it to be complete. It was complete as an empty chair. That was a revelation about my own mind. I didn't always need to be thinking to be complete. Awareness didn't need content to be valid. Sometimes, the most peaceful state was simply being the empty chair, available, present, but not occupied. Be the empty chair by the fire of consciousness. Let thoughts come sit if they must. But don't cling to them. Don't beg them to stay. When they leave, as all thoughts do, enjoy the emptiness. Enjoy the space. Enjoy the simple being of the chair itself. In that enjoyment, in that appreciation of emptiness, you might find that sleep comes to sit a while in that empty chair. And you don't even need to move over. There's plenty of room in emptiness for everything, including rest. This completes the first part of our 6-part journey. We've established the foundational understanding: you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear and disappear. From this recognition, all true rest becomes possible. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear, dance for a while, and dissolve. Tonight, we move from understanding to application. We'll address the specific obstacles that seem to stand between you and rest, and we'll discover how each obstacle, when met with awareness rather than resistance, becomes not a barrier but a doorway. But first, let me share a story about thresholds. In the monastery where I spent my first winter, there was an old wooden door that led to the meditation hall. It was heavy, warped by centuries of weather, and it stuck fiercely in its frame. New students would often struggle with it. Pushing, pulling, sometimes even throwing their shoulder against it. I watched one young man literally sweat with effort trying to force it open. Then the elder monk came. He didn't push. He didn't pull. He simply placed his palm against the wood, waited a moment, then gently lifted up on the handle as he leaned his weight forward. The door swung open smoothly, silently. "The door isn't locked," he said to the panting student. "It just needs to be approached in harmony with how it hangs." Your struggle was with your own idea of how doors should work, not with the door itself. Our obstacles to sleep are like that door. We think we need to force our way through, to push thoughts away, to pull sleep toward us, to struggle against wakefulness. But what if the approach itself is the problem? What if peace comes not through force, but through understanding how the mind actually hangs? Let's address the first and most pervasive obstacle. The belief that you need a blank mind to sleep. This is perhaps the most common misunderstanding about rest, and it causes immeasurable suffering. People lie in bed and think, "I need to stop thinking." Then they try. And in the trying, they create more thinking about not thinking. It's like being told, "Don't think of a white bear," and suddenly white bears are all you can see. Buddhism offers a radical correction: you don't need a blank mind to sleep. You need a mind that isn't bothered by its own activity. Think about this: have you ever fallen asleep while worrying? While planning? While replaying a conversation? Of course you have. It happens to everyone. The mind was active, but at some point, you stopped caring about the activity. You stopped feeding it with attention. And in that cessation of feeding, sleep slipped in like a quiet guest. The problem isn't thinking. The problem is your relationship to thinking. I learned this from watching my cat. He would often sleep right through loud noises, vacuum cleaners, doorbells, my terrible guitar playing. But if he heard the faintest sound of a treat bag, he was instantly alert. His sleep wasn't dependent on silence. It was dependent on whether he cared about the sound. Your mind is similar. Thoughts are just mental sounds. They become sleep-preventing only when you care about them. When you believe them, when you engage with them, when you think they're important. Try this experiment: let thoughts be as loud as they want to be. Don't try to quiet them. In fact, invite them, "Come on, thoughts. Do your worst. Show me what you've got." Then watch them with mild curiosity, as you might watch a loud but uninteresting television in a waiting room. You don't need to turn it off. You just need to stop being invested in the program. The second obstacle is our addiction to control. We believe that if we just think enough, plan enough, analyze enough, we can secure our safety, our happiness, our peace. And before sleep, this control mechanism goes into overdrive. We review the day to make sure we didn't miss anything. We plan tomorrow to make sure nothing goes wrong. We analyze our relationships to make sure we're protected. But here's the painful truth Buddhism reveals: control is an illusion. At least, the kind of control we're trying to exert is an illusion. You can't control life. You can't control other people. You can't even fully control your own mind. The more you try, the more you realize how little control you actually have, and the more anxious you become. But there's another kind of control available, not control over experience, but control of your relationship to experience. This is where true freedom lies. I discovered this during a whitewater rafting trip. The first half of the day, I tried to control everything, paddling fiercely against currents, fighting the river's flow. I exhausted myself and nearly capsized us several times. After lunch, the guide said, "Stop trying to control the river. Control your boat. Work with the river, not against it." That changed everything. I began to read the water, to use its currents to move where I wanted to go. I stopped fighting and started flowing. And I discovered a paradoxical truth. By giving up control over the river, I gained more control over my journey. Your mind before sleep is that river. Thoughts are the currents. Trying to control them exhausts you. Learning to work with them, to use awareness to navigate rather than resistance to fight, brings you to rest. When you notice the urge to control, to solve, to fix, to plan, gently remind yourself, I am not in control of the river. I am only in control of my relationship to it. Then feel your body on the bed. That's your boat. Feel your breath. That's your paddle. And let the river of thought flow as it will, while you simply stay in your boat, breathing, present, not fighting the current. Closely related to control is our addiction to problem solving. The mind evolved to solve problems, to find food, avoid predators, build shelter. It's excellent at this. But it doesn't know when to stop. It will treat everything as a problem to be solved, including sleep itself. How do I fall asleep? Becomes just another problem on the list. But sleep isn't a problem to be solved. It's a state to be allowed. It's not a destination you reach through effort. It's a condition that arises when effort ceases. Buddhism teaches us to recognize the problem-solving mind for what it is, a useful tool that's currently out of its proper context. Like using a hammer to paint a portrait. The hammer isn't bad. It's just the wrong tool for this particular job. I was a chronic problem solver. I'd lie in bed, solving problems that weren't even mine to solve, global issues, other people's lives, hypothetical future scenarios. One night, I made a list of all the problems my mind had tried to solve after 10 p.m. The next morning, I reviewed it. Not a single solution I'd come up with was useful. Not one. In fact, many were frankly ridiculous, elaborate plans for situations that never occurred. That's when I realized. The problem-solving mind at night is like a security guard who keeps checking empty rooms long after everyone has gone home. He means well. He's doing his job. But there's nothing to guard. When your mind starts problem-solving, thank it. Seriously. Say, thank you, mind, for trying to keep me safe. Thank you for your vigilance. But right now, there are no problems to solve. The building is empty. You can stand down. Then redirect its energy towards simply noticing. Noticing the breath, noticing sensations, noticing silence. Give it a new job, witness, not solver. This might be the most subtle obstacle, personalization. The mind's tendency to make everything about me. A random worry appears, and we think, why am I worrying? A physical discomfort arises, and we think, why is this happening to me? A memory surfaces, and we think, this means something about who I am. Buddhism points out that this personalization is optional. Thoughts arise due to causes and conditions, fatigue, stress, habit, diet, what you watched before bed, the phase of the moon, a million factors. They're not personal messages. They're just mental events. Imagine you're walking down a street and you see litter. You might think, this street is dirty. But you wouldn't think, this litter is about me. It's commenting on my worth as a person. That would be absurd. Yet we do this with thoughts all the time. A thought litter appears in the street of our mind, and we immediately make it personal. I learned to depersonalize thoughts from an unexpected teacher, a parrot. My neighbor had a parrot that would randomly say phrases it had heard: hello, pretty bird, time for dinner. Sometimes it would say, I'm sorry, in a mournful tone. People would anthropomorphize, oh, he feels guilty about something. But the parrot wasn't sorry. It was just repeating sounds. Your mind is like that parrot sometimes. It repeats thoughts it has heard, from your parents, from society, from your past. You're not good enough. You need to try harder. Something's wrong. These aren't truths. They're just mental phrases playing on repeat. When a thought arises, instead of asking, what does this mean about me, try asking, what conditions gave rise to this thought? Tiredness? Hunger? Something you read? An old habit? See the thought as an impersonal event, like a cloud passing in the sky of awareness. The sky doesn't own the clouds. It just holds them temporarily. Before sleep, time distorts. Minutes feel like hours. The pressure to fall asleep on time creates its own anxiety. We watch the clock, calculate how many hours we'll get if we fall asleep now, and with each passing minute, sleep recedes further. Buddhism invites us to question our relationship with time. Clock time is useful for appointments, but psychological time, the feeling of being behind, of rushing, of pressure, is pure suffering. And it's completely optional. There's a beautiful teaching about time from Thich Nhat Hanh: the present moment is the only time over which we have dominion. The past is gone. The future isn't here. All we ever have is now. And in the now, there is no problem with sleep. In the now, you're just lying in bed. That's all. The problem exists only when you leave the now and go into the future. If I don't fall asleep soon, tomorrow will be terrible. I experienced time distortion profoundly during a month-long retreat. With no clocks, no schedules except for meal bells, I lost all sense of clock time. Days blended. Nights felt endless sometimes, brief sometimes. And I discovered something: when I didn't know what time it was, I didn't know how long I'd been awake. I couldn't calculate sleep debt. I couldn't pressure myself. I just was. And in that simple being, sleep came and went as it pleased. And I was always rested enough. You can create a version of this tonight. Turn your clock away. Better yet, remove it from the room. If you need to wake at a certain time, use a phone in another room. Create a timeless space. Then, when you find yourself wondering how long you've been awake, gently return to the breath. Return to sensation. Return to now. In the now, there's no sleep problem. There's just this breath. This sensation. This moment. This one is particularly modern, FOMO applied to our own minds. We're afraid that if we sleep, we'll miss something important, a thought, an insight, a solution. We treat our minds like social media feeds we need to keep scrolling through lest we miss a crucial update. But Buddhism reminds us, there are no crucial updates at 2 a.m. The mind offline is more creative than the mind desperately online. Solutions often come not from more thinking, but from the space between thoughts. I used to be terrified of missing insights. I'd keep a notebook by my bed and jot down every important thought. After a year, I reviewed the notebook. 90% was nonsense. 10% seemed profound in the moment but was trivial in daylight. The truly important insights, the ones that actually changed my life, came not during frantic night thinking, but in the quiet moments upon waking, or during a walk, or in the shower. The mind, like land, needs fallow periods. Time when nothing is planted. Time when it just rests. This is when the deepest restoration happens. This is when the soil becomes fertile again. Give yourself permission to miss out. To not be productive. To not have insights. To not solve anything. Imagine your mind as a store that's closed for the night. The sign says, closed. Reopening in the morning. Whatever thoughts come knocking, you don't have to answer. The store is closed. You're not missing sales. You're allowing inventory to restock itself. We often approach sleep as if it's a special state we need to achieve. We want that, just right, feeling of drowsiness. We want the perfect relaxation. We want the magic threshold where wakefulness tips into sleep. And we monitor ourselves constantly. Am I there yet? Am I sleepy enough? Am I relaxed enough? This monitoring is itself wakefulness. The seeker cannot find what it seeks because the seeking is the opposite of the sought. Buddhism turns this pursuit on its head. Don't seek sleep. Allow wakefulness. Completely. Fully. If you're awake, be awake. Don't resist it. Don't judge it. Just be awake with total acceptance. And in that total acceptance of wakefulness, a funny thing happens, it loses its urgency. It becomes just another experience. And when an experience isn't resisted, it tends to change. I learned this during an all-night meditation vigil. We were to stay awake from dusk till dawn. The first few hours, I fought sleepiness. Then, around 2 a.m., I surrendered. Okay, I'll just be awake all night. That's fine. The moment I completely accepted wakefulness, a deep peace descended. And ironically, I had to struggle to stay awake after that. My acceptance had removed the struggle, and sleepiness naturally emerged. If you find yourself seeking sleep, try seeking wakefulness instead. I'm going to stay awake all night. I'm going to enjoy just lying here. I'm going to appreciate this quiet time. Mean it. Embrace wakefulness as a gift, time to rest the body even if the mind is alert. In this embrace, the division between wakefulness and sleep softens. The boundary becomes permeable. And often, sleep enters through the back door of acceptance. Perhaps the most powerful obstacle is the story we tell ourselves, I'm a bad sleeper. I've always had trouble sleeping. Sleep is hard for me. This story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind believes the story and acts accordingly. Buddhism teaches that stories are just stories. They have power only because we believe them. But we can believe different stories. Or better yet, we can stop believing stories altogether and just experience what is, without narrative. There's a neurological truth here: the brain doesn't distinguish well between actual experience and vividly imagined experience. When you tell yourself, "I can't sleep," your brain hears it as a fact and arranges your physiology to match. Body tension increases. Stress hormones release. Sleep becomes indeed difficult. But the reverse is also true. When you drop the story and simply experience the present, right now, I'm lying in bed. That's all. The brain relaxes. The story loses its grip. I worked with a man who had believed he was a bad sleeper for 40 years. He'd tried everything. I asked him to do one thing: stop saying, "I can't sleep." Even if he was awake at 4 a.m., he was to say, "I'm resting in bed." He resisted. "But it's true. I can't sleep." "Try it as an experiment," I said. "Just for 1 week." He did. The first few nights were the same. But by the 5th night, something shifted. He reported, "I stopped telling myself the story, and suddenly, I wasn't a bad sleeper anymore. I was just a person in bed. Sometimes sleeping, sometimes resting. Both felt okay." Tonight, experiment with dropping the story. When the thought, "I can't sleep," arises, don't argue with it. Don't believe it either. Simply note, the story of not sleeping is appearing. Then return to sensation. Return to breath. Be a person lying in bed, without a story about what that means. Let experience be fresh, without the filter of narrative. Sometimes, the obstacle isn't psychological but existential, the unfinished business of the day. The conversations left unresolved. The tasks incomplete. The feelings unprocessed. We lie down, and the mind says, "Wait. We're not done yet." Buddhism offers a beautiful practice for this, the ritual of completion. Not completing tasks, but completing your relationship to the day. Acknowledging that the day is over, whether you finished everything or not. Whether it was good or bad. Whether you succeeded or failed. It's done. In some monasteries, monks perform a ceremony at dusk where they symbolically put the day to rest. They acknowledge what was accomplished and what wasn't. They offer gratitude for the lessons. Then they consciously release the day, knowing tomorrow will bring its own tasks, its own lessons. You can create a mini version of this. Before getting into bed, take 3 minutes. Sit or stand comfortably. Review the day in your mind, not to judge or analyze, but to acknowledge. This happened. That was said. I felt this. I did that. Then, imagine placing the day in a boat and pushing it out to sea. Or imagine it as pages in a book that you close. Or simply say to yourself, the day is complete as it is. I started doing this after particularly stressful days. I'd stand at my window, look at the night sky, and say, whatever didn't get done today, the universe isn't keeping score. The day was what it was. Now, it's time to rest. This simple act created psychological closure that my mind craved. Try your own ritual of completion. It doesn't need to be elaborate. Just a moment of acknowledgement and release. Then, when you lie down, if thoughts about the day arise, you can gently remind yourself, the day is complete. There's nothing to add. Nothing to fix. It is as it is. We come to the most paradoxical obstacle, resistance to rest itself. Some part of us doesn't want to surrender. Doesn't want to let go. Doesn't want to be vulnerable. Sleep requires surrender, the temporary death of the ego, the relinquishing of control, the vulnerability of unconsciousness. And parts of us rebel against this. Buddhism recognizes this resistance as natural. The ego's job is to maintain itself, and sleep threatens that maintenance. So it creates reasons to stay awake, problems to solve, dangers to watch for, important things to think about. But Buddhism also offers a reframe: sleep isn't death. It's renewal. It's not vulnerability, it's strength being restored. It's not losing control, it's allowing a deeper intelligence to take over. I had to face my own resistance to rest after a burnout. I was proud of my ability to function on little sleep. I saw sleep as wasted time. Then my body collapsed. During my recovery, a doctor said, "Your resistance to rest is why you're here. The body needs rest like plants need night. Without it, nothing grows properly." That humbled me. I began to see sleep not as wasted time but as essential work, the work of restoration, integration, healing. I started welcoming it rather than resisting it. If you feel resistance to sleep, acknowledge it. Ah, there's resistance. Part of me doesn't want to let go. Don't fight the resistance. Be with it. Feel where it lives in the body, often in the jaw, shoulders, or belly. Breathe into those places. Thank the resistance for trying to protect you. Then gently remind yourself, rest isn't dangerous. It's necessary. It's how life renews itself. These obstacles. The blank mind myth, the illusion of control, problem-solving addiction, personalization, time tyranny, FOMO, pursuit of special states, the "I can't sleep" story, day accumulation, and resistance to rest, are not enemies to be defeated. They are aspects of the mind doing what minds do. Buddhism doesn't ask us to eliminate them. It asks us to see them clearly. To understand their nature. To recognize that they're made of thought, and thought has no power over awareness unless awareness believes it. As you encounter these obstacles, try this three-step approach. 1. Recognize, this is the problem-solving mind. This is personalization. This is the story of not sleeping. 2. Allow, let it be. Don't fight it. Don't follow it. Just let it exist in your awareness like a cloud in the sky. 3. Return. Gently return your attention to the body, to the breath, to the sensations of resting. That's it. Recognition, allowance, return. Simple but profound. You're not trying to change anything. You're just changing your relationship to everything. And in that changed relationship, something magical happens. The obstacles don't disappear, but they lose their obstructive quality. They become part of the landscape of night, interesting features, perhaps, but not barriers. And through that landscape, sleep finds its natural path to you. We have recognized what we are, awareness itself, not the thoughts that pass through it. We have identified the common obstacles that seem to stand between us and rest. Now we come to the gentle art of alignment, how to meet the night not as a problem to be solved, but as a presence to be experienced. How to work with your mind rather than against it. How to allow sleep to find you by becoming the space in which it can naturally arise. Let me begin with a story about alignment, about meeting things as they are. Years ago, I spent a season working on a small organic farm. The farmer, a woman named Alara, had a way with plants that seemed almost magical. She never fought with them. She never forced them. I watched her one afternoon as she tended to a young apple tree that was leaning sharply to one side. Most gardeners would have staked it upright, forcing it straight against its natural inclination. Alara did something different. She studied the tree, felt the direction of the prevailing wind, observed how the sunlight fell. Then she gently pruned the heavier side and allowed the tree to keep its lean, but with support. She worked with its tendency, not against it. Trees, she told me, have their own intelligence. They grow toward light, away from wind, toward water. If you fight that intelligence, you get a weak tree. If you work with it, you get a strong tree that bears fruit. That is exactly what we do with the mind before sleep. We work with its intelligence, not against it. We don't try to force it into silence. We meet it where it is and gently align with the natural movement toward rest. Before we can meet the mind, we must remember we have a body. This sounds obvious, but before sleep, most of us live entirely in our heads. We're thinking about the day, planning tomorrow, worrying, remembering. We've abandoned the body. And the body is where sleep begins. Buddhism teaches mindfulness of the body not as a relaxation technique but as a homecoming. The body is always in the present moment. It doesn't worry about tomorrow. It doesn't regret yesterday. It simply is. And when you bring your attention into the body, you're brought into the present. And in the present, there is no sleep problem. There's a beautiful Pali word, kayagatasati. It means mindfulness immersed in the body. It's not about fixing the body or relaxing it. It's about feeling it, noticing it, being present with it. I learned this from a teacher who had survived a serious illness. She said, "When I was sick, I realized I had been treating my body like a vehicle, something to carry my brain around. I ignored it until it broke down. Now, I listen to it. I feel it. I thank it. And in that listening, I found a kind of peace that thinking never gave me." Tonight, try this simple practice before you even attempt to sleep. Lie down and for 5 minutes, do nothing but feel your body. Start with your toes. Can you feel them? Not move them, just feel the sensation of them existing. Then your feet, ankles, calves, knees. Move slowly upward. Don't change anything. Don't relax anything. Just feel. If you find your mind wandering into thought, gently return to sensation. You're not trying to achieve anything. You're just coming home to the body. This grounding does something remarkable. It anchors awareness in the present. And in the present, the mind's stories about not sleeping lose their power. They're just thoughts. You're here, in the body, breathing. That's real. That's now. Next comes the breath. But we must approach it carefully. Many sleep techniques instruct you to control your breathing, to breathe deeply, to count breaths, to pace them. This can backfire because it's another form of control, another thing to do, another way the mind can stay in charge. Buddhism offers a different relationship with the breath, anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. It's not about controlling the breath. It's about noticing it, being interested in it, keeping company with it. The breath has its own intelligence. It knows how to breathe. It adjusts to your emotional state, to your activity level, to your need for oxygen. When you try to control it, you override that intelligence. When you notice it, you align with it. Here's a way to practice that I learned in a Zen monastery. The teacher said, "Don't breathe. Let breathing happen." At first, I didn't understand. Then he explained, when you're asleep, who breathes? You don't decide to breathe. Breathing happens. That intelligence is always here. You just need to get out of its way. So we sat. And instead of taking deep breaths, I simply noticed the breath coming and going. I felt the cool air entering my nostrils. The slight pause. The warmer air leaving. I noticed how the breath changed when I noticed it. Sometimes it deepened on its own, sometimes it stayed shallow. I didn't interfere. I just witnessed. That night, I applied it in bed. Instead of doing breathing exercises, I just noticed my breath. I felt it as a natural process, like waves on a shore. In and out. Rise and fall. And something shifted. The effort I usually brought to trying to sleep dissolved. I was just lying there, breathing, aware. And sleep came like a high tide, naturally covering the shore of my awareness. Let the breath breathe you. Don't make it deeper. Don't slow it down. Just feel it. Be curious about it. Where do you feel it most? Nostrils? Chest? Belly? Is it smooth or ragged? Deep or shallow? There's no right answer. There's just noticing. In that noticing, you're not doing anything. You're being with something. And being, not doing, is the language of sleep. When thoughts arise, and they will, we often get into a wrestling match. We either follow them down rabbit holes or try to push them away. Buddhism offers a middle way, name them. This isn't analysis. It's simple recognition. When you notice a thought, quietly give it a generic label. Thinking. Worrying. Planning. Remembering. That's it. No story. No judgment. Just naming. This does something neurologically fascinating. It activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for metacognition, thinking about thinking. This temporarily quiets the amygdala, the fear center that's often activated during nighttime rumination. You're not fighting the thought. You're just noting its category. I learned this from a neuroscience researcher who also practiced Buddhist meditation. She explained, when you name an emotion or thought, you create a tiny gap between you and it. That gap is where choice lives. You don't have to believe the thought. You don't have to follow it. You can just notice, that's worry, and return to the breath. She had me practice during the day. Whenever I noticed I was caught in a thought stream, I'd say silently, thinking. It felt silly at first. But after a week, I noticed a change. The thoughts didn't have the same sticky quality. They were easier to let go of. Tonight, when thoughts keep you awake, try this gentle naming. Don't make it a project. Don't try to catch every thought. Just when you notice you've been carried away, gently note, thinking. Then return to the feeling of the body on the bed. That's it. You're not clearing the mind. You're just reminding yourself what's real, the body, the breath, and what's mental content, thinking. Emotions before sleep can be particularly challenging. Anxiety, sadness, frustration, they have a way of feeling overwhelming when the lights go out. Our usual approach is to analyze them. Why do I feel this way? What does it mean? How do I fix it? This is the mind trying to solve emotions, and it doesn't work. Emotions aren't problems. They're experiences. Buddhism teaches us to meet emotions not in the mind but in the body. Emotions always manifest physically. Anxiety might be a tight chest or restless legs. Sadness might be a heaviness in the limbs or a lump in the throat. Frustration might be heat in the face or clenched jaw. When you feel an emotion at night, instead of following the story about it, drop into the body. Where do you feel it? What are the sensations? Tightness? Pressure? Heat? Coolness? Vibration? Just feel those sensations without trying to change them. I had a powerful experience with this during a period of grief. Nights were the hardest. The sadness felt like an ocean I was drowning in. One night, instead of crying or thinking about my loss, I decided to just feel the physical sensations. I located the sadness in my chest, a specific ache, a hollow feeling, a weight. I just stayed with those sensations, breathing into them. I didn't try to make them go away. I just felt them. And after about 20 minutes, something shifted. The sadness was still there, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was just a sensation. And I could rest alongside it. Emotions are energy in motion. When we resist them, they get stuck. When we feel them fully in the body, they complete their natural cycle. They move through. Tonight, if an emotion arises, try this somatic approach. Find it in the body. Feel it with curiosity, not judgment. Breathe into the area. You're not trying to release it. You're just allowing it to be felt. Often, when emotions are fully allowed, they transform or dissipate on their own. And even if they don't, you're no longer fighting them. You're resting with them. And that makes all the difference. One of the greatest sources of nighttime anxiety is our need to know. To know what tomorrow will bring. To know why something happened. To know what something means. The mind abhors uncertainty. It will create stories, often negative ones, just to have the illusion of knowing. Buddhism introduces the radical practice of not knowing. This isn't ignorance. It's humility. It's the recognition that we actually know very little, and that's okay. We don't need to know everything to be at peace. In fact, our insistence on knowing is often what destroys peace. In Zen, they call this beginner's mind, approaching each moment fresh, without preconceptions, without the burden of what we think we know. Before sleep, this means letting go of the need to figure things out. It means being okay with unanswered questions. It means allowing mystery. I learned this from watching my young nephew fall asleep. He didn't need to know what tomorrow held. He didn't need to understand his day. He simply felt tired, closed his eyes, and slept. His mind was still in that beautiful state of not needing to know everything. We can reclaim that. When the mind starts its need-to-know routine, what will happen? What does this mean? Why did that happen? We can gently say, I don't know. And we can say it not with anxiety, but with relief. I don't know, and that's okay. I don't need to know right now. Tonight, experiment with not knowing. When a question arises that has no immediate answer, instead of searching for one, simply rest in the question mark. Feel what it's like to not know. You might discover it's more spacious, more peaceful, than having an answer. In that spaciousness, sleep finds room to enter. All these practices point to one thing, returning to awareness itself. Not awareness of something, but awareness as the ground of being. This is the ultimate alignment. Most of our lives, we're aware of things, thoughts, feelings, sensations. But we rarely notice awareness itself, the space in which all these objects appear. Before sleep, we can shift from being aware of things to resting as awareness. How do you do this? It's simpler than it sounds. Instead of focusing on any particular object, breath, body, sound, you open to everything equally. You become like the sky, not focusing on any particular cloud, but holding all clouds in spacious awareness. A teacher once described it like this: normally, awareness is like a flashlight beam, moving from object to object. Resting as awareness is like turning on the room light. Everything is illuminated equally, and the light itself is everywhere. I first experienced this during a meditation retreat. We had been practicing focusing on the breath for days. Then the instructor said, "Now, drop the breath. Just be aware. Don't focus on anything. Just be the awareness that knows everything." For a moment, I was confused. Then I let go. And I experienced a profound shift. Instead of being a person meditating, I was awareness itself. Thoughts arose, but they were like birds flying through a vast sky, small, temporary, not disturbing the sky at all. That night, I applied it in bed. Instead of trying to focus on my breath or body, I simply rested as awareness. I let everything be as it was, thoughts, sensations, sounds. I didn't try to change anything. I was just the space holding it all. And in that space, sleep arose naturally, seamlessly. Tonight, you might try this. After you've done some grounding in the body, let go of all objects. Just be. Be the awareness that knows the body is resting. That knows thoughts are passing. That knows sounds are happening. Don't hold on to anything. Don't push anything away. Just be the knowing presence. In this presence, there's no one trying to sleep. There's just rest happening. In all these practices, you will wander. The mind will get caught in thought. That's not failure. That's the nature of mind. The practice is in the gentle return. Buddhism emphasizes this gentleness. If you return with frustration, ugh, I'm thinking again, you've just added more agitation. If you return with kindness, ah, wandering, okay, back to the breath, you're training the mind in peace. The return is where the magic happens. Each gentle return is like a stitch in a tapestry of presence. Over time, these stitches create a fabric of awareness that can hold you through the night. I think of my grandmother knitting. She'd drop stitches sometimes. She never got upset. She'd just gently pick them up and continue. Her knitting was peaceful because her relationship to mistakes was peaceful. Our meditation before sleep is like that. We're knitting a blanket of presence. We'll drop stitches, get lost in thought. That's expected. We just gently pick them up, return to awareness, and continue. Tonight, be that kind knitter. When you notice you've been lost in thought for 5 minutes, don't judge. Just gently return. No drama. No self-criticism. Just, oh, there's thinking. And come back to now. This gentle return is perhaps the most important practice of all. It trains the mind in non-resistance. And non-resistance is the essence of sleep. Finally, we come to the physical posture of sleep. This might seem obvious, but how we hold our bodies communicates to our nervous system. If we're physically braced, the mind stays braced. Buddhism teaches mindfulness of posture not just in meditation but in all activities. Before sleep, we can consciously adopt a posture of surrender. This doesn't mean a specific position. It means finding the position where your body can completely let go. For some, that's on the back with arms slightly away from the body. For others, it's curled on one side. The key is to find where tension releases. Then, once you're in position, do a quick scan. Jaw, soften it. Shoulders, let them drop. Belly, let it be soft. Hands, unclench them. Toes, let them relax. You're not forcing relaxation. You're inviting it. You're giving permission. I learned a beautiful practice from a yoga teacher who worked with insomnia. She called it the melt. You lie in your chosen position and imagine you're made of warm wax, slowly melting into the bed. Starting at the crown of the head, you imagine melting down through the face, neck, shoulders, arms, torso, legs, feet. You don't do anything. You just imagine the melting. And the body often follows the imagination. This posture of surrender tells the nervous system, it's safe to let go. The guard can stand down. And when the body believes it's safe, the mind often follows. You don't need to do all these practices every night. That would become another project. Instead, think of them as tools in a toolbox. On any given night, one might be more appropriate than others. Some nights, you might need strong grounding in the body. Other nights, simply resting as awareness might work. Some nights, naming thoughts is what's needed. Other nights, meeting emotions in the body. The art is in sensing what's needed. And that sensing comes from checking in with yourself. Before you start trying to sleep, take a moment to feel, what's here tonight? A busy mind? emotional turmoil, physical tension. Then choose the practice that meets that condition. Over time, these practices blend into a seamless approach. You become fluent in the language of your own being. You know how to meet restlessness with spaciousness, worry with grounding, planning with not knowing. But remember, the goal is not to become a perfect practitioner. The goal is to become more kind, more present, more allowing with whatever arises. Sleep is the natural byproduct of that allowing. To help integrate these practices, you might create a simple nighttime ritual. Not a rigid routine, but a gentle sequence that signals to your mind and body that it's time to shift into rest mode. Here's one you can adapt. 1. Completion. 2 minutes acknowledge the day is done. You can do this sitting on the edge of the bed or standing. Say to yourself, the day is complete as it is. 2. Gratitude. 1 minute. Find one thing you're grateful for from the day. It can be tiny, a warm shower, a kind word, a moment of beauty. 3. Grounding. 3 minutes lie down and feel your body from toes to head. Just sensation. 4. Breath awareness. 2 minutes notice the natural breath. Don't change it. 5. Resting as awareness. As long as it happens, let go of all focus. Just be awareness itself. That's it. Simple, gentle, kind. The whole ritual takes less than 10 minutes but creates a powerful transition. I've shared this ritual with many people. One man told me, for years, I'd jump into bed with my mind still racing from the day. This ritual creates a buffer zone. By the time I get to resting as awareness, my mind has already begun to settle. Finally, the most important alignment of all, aligning with non-achievement. Sleep cannot be achieved. It can only be allowed. All these practices are not means to achieve sleep. They are ways of being that are compatible with sleep. If you do these practices with the goal of falling asleep, you've missed the point. You're back in striving, in goal-oriented mind. That's wakefulness. Instead, do them for their own sake. Feel your body because it's interesting to feel your body. Notice your breath because the breath is a mysterious, life-giving process. Rest as awareness because awareness is what you truly are. Do them with no expectation of sleep. In fact, release all expectation. Just be present with what is. This is the great paradox. When you completely give up on falling asleep, sleep often comes. Not because you tricked yourself, but because you've finally stopped the interference. You've aligned with the natural intelligence of your being, which knows how to rest. We have traveled through understanding, through practice, through alignment. Now we arrive at the simplest truth of all: rest is your nature. You do not need to find it, achieve it, or earn it. You only need to stop leaving it. Sleep is not something you do. It is something you allow. It is the natural state of the system when struggle ceases. Like a pond that becomes still when the wind stops stirring its surface, your mind settles into sleep when you stop stirring it with effort, with control, with resistance. All the teachings of Buddhism, the recognition of awareness, the letting go of identification, the practice of non-resistance, point to this one thing. You are already home. You have never left. Thoughts may cloud your knowing, but awareness remains untouched. Worry may visit, but peace is the host. Restlessness may arise, but stillness is the ground. Tonight, as you prepare to close your eyes, remember this: you are not a problem to be solved. You are not a project to be improved. You are consciousness itself, temporarily experiencing the human drama of thought and feeling. And consciousness knows how to rest. It has been resting in the spaces between thoughts all along. Let everything be as it is. If thoughts come, let them come. If they go, let them go. Do not follow. Do not resist. Do not even try to be aware. Just be. Your being is awareness itself. If the body feels tense, let it be tense. If it relaxes, let it relax. Do not force. Do not correct. The body knows its own way to rest when the mind stops interfering. If emotions surface, let them surface. Feel them fully in the body, without story, without meaning-making. They are energy moving through. Let them move. If sleep feels far away, let it be far away. If it feels close, let it be close. Do not measure. Do not anticipate. Be here, now, without an agenda. This is the ultimate practice, no practice. Just being. Just allowing. Just resting as what you are. There was an old monk who lived by a river. Every evening, people would come to him with their troubles. Their anxieties, their regrets, their sleepless nights. He would listen, then point to the river. Watch the water, he'd say. It never tries to be still. It is still when nothing stirs it. One night, a man came who hadn't slept properly in years. I've tried everything, he said. Meditation, herbs, therapy, pills. Nothing works. The old monk smiled. You have tried everything except one thing. What? The man asked desperately. Trying nothing. The monk led him to the riverbank. Sit here until dawn. Don't meditate. Don't try to relax. Don't even try to be awake. Just sit. The man sat. At first, his mind raced. Then it tired. Then it grew quiet. And as the first light of dawn touched the water, he realized he had been sitting in perfect peace for hours. He hadn't slept, but he was rested. Deeply, profoundly rested. He turned to the monk. I didn't sleep, but I'm not tired. The monk nodded. You finally stopped stirring the water. Your river is already still. Your mind is that river. It is stirred by trying, by effort, by the belief that you need to do something to be at peace. When you stop stirring, stillness reveals itself. It was there all along. Tonight, stop stirring. Stop trying to sleep. Stop trying to quiet your mind. Stop trying to be peaceful. Stop trying altogether. Just lie there. Let the river of your mind flow if it wants to flow. Let it be still if it becomes still. You are not the river. You are the bank. The silent, steady, unmoving bank. And from the bank, you can watch everything, thoughts, feelings, sensations, without being swept away. From the bank, you can rest. A blessing for your night. May you remember what you are. May you rest in awareness. May you allow everything to be as it is. May sleep find you when struggle ends. May you wake refreshed, not because your life changed, but because your relationship to it softened. Thank you for being here. If this journey has supported you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. May we continue to remember together that peace is not somewhere else. It is here. Now. In this breath. In this moment. In this letting go. Good night, dear friend. The temple is always here. You are always home.